Good day, Mrs. Gatdula. We are Group 13 and we're going to present about family structure and legacies. If you look up legacy in the dictionary, you will see a couple of meanings. One is an amount of money or property left to someone in a will. Another is something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or from the past. Next slide, please. Family legacies. Family legacies means the accomplishments, beliefs, actions, and guidance you demonstrate in your lives that carry forward to future generations in a fashion which allow those family members to adapt and adapt them to make their lives meaningful and fruitful. When you hear the words family legacy, you may think of the distribution of tangible assets, trust, and maybe even state planning. Yung tangible asset, yung mga bagay na physical na nahawakan, kabilang dito yung mga pera, sasakyan, kagamitan, mga building, and investments. While estate planning naman is yung mga pagpaplano sa paghahanda para sa paglipat ng yaman or pagpapamana ng ari-arian ng isang tao pagkatapos ng kanyang kamatayan. Mostly nangyayari ito sa mga mayayaman. So, bagamat bahagi lamang ang mga salik na ito sa legacy ng isang pamilya. Ang pinakapamana kasi na natatanggap ng mga miyembro ng pamilya ay hindi mga material na bagay, kung hindi yung mga saloobin, pag-uugali, paniniwala, estilo ng komunikasyon at tradisyon. Next slide, please. This is the big question for everyone. How does your family affect you as a developing individual? So, kasi sobra tayong naapektuhan ng pamilya natin. Kasi yung pamilya yung pangunahing panlipunang grupo ng isang bata at ang pamilyang may pinakamalaking impluensya sa ating pakikisalamuha at pamumuhay. Kasi sila yung mga nakakasama natin sa araw-araw. Ganun. So, ang pamilya ay magiging responsable para sa paghubog ng mga kaya natin, pagkakakilanlan, at pakiramdam ng seguridad sa mga yugto ng pag-unlad natin. Every family support has been hugely helpful to every development of us or individual, as has the feeling of being loved, safe, and secure. Next slide. Call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family. Whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one. By Jane Howard Families. I-connect natin yung quote na to sa linya mula sa Devotions upon Emergent Occasions. English poet ni Janda na No Man is an Island. Kasi tayo, masasabi talaga natin na walang sino man ang ganap na kayang mabuhay ng mag-isa sa mundong to. Lahat ay umaasa sa kumpanya at ginawa ng iba upang mabuhay. Palagi tayong mga kailangan ng isang kasamahan upang matulungan natin yung mga sarili natin or yung iba at makipag-usap ng epektibo para makabuo ng isang mahusay na diskarte para sa kabuhayan at pag-unlad. Ganun. Next slide and next reporter, please.
Here are the different kinds of family structures and its definition. Next slide, please. First is nuclear family. Is a family unit made of a married couple which may have any number of children. It is known as traditional family. Ito yung pamilya kung saan binubuo ng kasal na mag-asawa at may isa o higit pang legal na mga anak. Next slide. Next is extended family. A family that extends beyond the nuclear family, including grandparents, aunts, uncles, and other relatives who all live nearby or in one household. Ito naman yung pamilyang binubuo ng nuclear family na dinagdagan ng other relatives tulad ng lolo, lola, tito, tita, at iba pa. Next. Third is step families. Two families brought together due to divorce, separation, and remarriage. Ito yung pamilya kung saan ang isang parehong mga magulang ay may mga anak na hindi biologically o adaptively na nauugnay sa ibang asawa. Ang mga anak nila ay nagmula sa mga nakaraang relasyon o kasal. Next slide please. Fourth is single-parent family. This can either be a father or a mother who is singly responsible for the raising of a child, either by choice or by life circumstances. The child can be by birth or adoption. This type of family ay binubuo ng isang magulang at isa o higit pang mga umaasang anak na walang presensya o suporta ng isang asawa o kapareha na kabahagi ng mga responsibilidad sa pagiging magulang. Next slide and reporter.
Adopted family, a family wherein or more of children has been adopted. Ang adopted family ay isang pamilyang tinatanggap ang isang bata sa kanilang pamilya na. Pinanganak, pinanganak ng ibang tao, illegal nilang inampon ang batang iyon bilang kanila. Matapos mapanalize ang pag-aampon, ang pangalan ng bata ay madalas na pinapalitan sa pangalan pinili ng kanilang adoptive na pamilya. At ang mga batang legal na nagiging miyembro ng kanilang kapamilya tulad ng kung sila ay pinanganak dito. Ang pamilyang umampon ay maaaring mag-iba sa edad, lahi, nasyonalidad at kasarian. Next slide please. Partial or multi multi-partial family. Ang a family where our parents are member of different racial identity groups. Isang pamilya kung saan ang mga magulang ay miyembro ng iba't ibang pangkat ng pagkakakilanlan ng lahi. Next slide please. Translation adoptive family. A family wherein adopted child is of is of a different racial identity group than the parents. Ang interracial adoption o adoption ay naglalarawan ng anumang sitwasyon kung saan ang isang pamilya ay nag-aampon ng ng isang anak bilang bahagi ng lahi, ibang lahi kaya. Ang mga pagbabago ng kultura at ugalian at racial adoption ay nagiging mas karaniwan sa paglipas ng mga taon. Dahil maraming adoptive parents ang hindi na nakaramdaman ng pangangailangan ng mag-ampon ng isang bata na kamukha nila. Next reporter please. And next slide.
Blended family, a family that consists of members from two or more previous families. Blended family. Shucks. Ang step family ay isang sambahayan na binubuo ng mga anak. May isa silang kinikilalang natural na magulang or biological parent. At ang asawa nito ay hindi mismong natural na magulang ng mga bata. Halimbawa, kung ang isang diborsyado o balo na ina na may dalawang anak ay nagpakasal sa isang lalaking walang anak, siya at ang mga anak na babae ay kanilang makakasama. Iyan ay isang step family. Ang blended family ay isang okay. Next slide. Conditionally separated family. A conditionally separated family is when one of the family members is separated from the family due to circumstances but still are an integral, significant member of the family. Ang ilang mga halimbawa ng mga nasabing mga pangyayari ay maaaring naglilingkod sa militar, nakakulong, na ospital or may trabaho sa malaya. Next slide. Host, Foster family, a family where one or more of the children is legally a temporary member of the household. A primary difference between adoption and foster care is the type of commitment. Foster care is a temporary commitment, adoption is a permanent commitment. Next, please. Gay or lesbian family, a family where one or both of the parents' sexual orientation is gay or lesbian. Next, reporter.
Immigrant family. Immigrant family have been generally described as families with one or more members who have moved from another country. Ito yung pamilyang may isa o higit pang miyembro na lumipat mula sa ibang bansa. Maaaring kabilang dito ang isang miyembro lamang ng pares o nag-iisang magulang at lahat iilan o wala sa mga bata. Next slide please. Migrant family. A family that moves regularly to place where they have employment. Ang mga taong lumilipat or pamilya dahil sa ugnayan ng iba pang pamilya ay tinatawag na migrant family. Mayroon din silang hanay ng mga connection sa pamilya sa kanilang mga katapat na parehang destinasyon at pinagmulang bansa, kabilang ang mga asawa, anak, magulang, kapatid at iba pang mga kamag-anak na nagbibigay diin sa transnational na kalikasan ng grupo. Next slide. Emotional legacies. Emotional legacies is something that is conceptualized and role modeled during a lifetime. As one starts to age, this legacy can hold greater meaning when time seems to race by. It has to do with who we are as people, what we have to offer, what things we hold, and what we want others to know about us. An emotional legacy has to do with the passing of our deeply rooted and cherished values that we would like to pass on to the next generation. So, in order to prosper, our children need an enduring sense of security and stability, nurtured in an environment of safety and love. Next slide. Genogram, meaning, example, and interpretation. Next slide. A genogram is a graphic representation of a family tree that displays detailed data on relationships among individuals. It goes beyond a traditional family tree by allowing the user to analyze hereditary patterns and psychological factors that punctuate relationships. The genogram maps out relationships and traits which may have had an influence on the patient's current state of mind. Next slide. Genograms are used in a variety of fields, such as medicine, psychology, social work, genealogy, genetic research, and education. Genogram contain a wealth of information that the family is represented. Next slide. First, they contain basic data found in family trees, such as the name, gender, date of birth, and death of each individual. Additional data may include education, occupation, major life events, chronic illnesses, social behaviors, nature family relationships, emotional and social relationships. Some genograms also include information on disorders running in the family, such as alcoholism, depression, diseases, alliances, and living situation. Next slide, the next reporter, please.
How to create a genogram. Genogram use a combination of special rules and symbols to depict a lot of information about families as succinctly as possible. Some of these rules and practices have been standardized and should be followed so future readers can understand their documentation. A genogram is structurally similar to a family tree but serves a very different purpose. A genogram includes information about relationships and interaction between family members, while a family tree only depicts lineage. Imagine a genogram as a family tree with much more detail about how the family members interact with one another. Other rules and symbols used in genogram differ depending on who you ask or what references you use. It isn't a big deal what symbols you use, as long as you are consistent. This will allow you to look at a genogram from any client, even those you don't know as well, and still glean useful information about the family. Next slide. Next slide po. Genogram gender symbol. Men are depicted by a square and woman is represented by a circle. Next slide, please. Genogram family relationship symbols are depicted by two gender symbols connected by a line beneath them. Men should always appear on the left and women on the right. Family relationships are used to describe the union of two individuals. A union is defined as the combination of two adult individuals joined for the purpose of creating a family unit. This union may be strong, such as marriage, or non existent, such as divorce. Next slide. Genogram comment symbols. Descriptive symbols, which are placed on top of the family relationship line, give more detail about relationship status. Each of these symbols can be placed over any type of line. For example, the separated symbol could be replaced over the committed relationships line or the marriage line. Next slide, please. Genogram emotional relationship symbols. These are depicted with a line directly connecting two gender symbols different from family relationship connections where the line is beneath them. This line can be used to connect any two people on the genogram. Here's a tip that your genogram will be very complicated if you connect every person to everyone else with emotional relationship lines. Try asking about each relationship, but only marks areas that are noteworthy or relevant to treatment. Next slide, please. Genogram, children symbols. Children are placed beneath their parents, which a line stemming from the parents' family relationship line. Children should be listed from left to right, which is the oldest to youngest. In a standard genogram, there are three different types of children: biological or natural child, the adopted child, and the foster child. Next slide, please. Genogram lifespan symbols. Deaths are indicated with an X inside the person's symbols. In some cases, it may be important to add extra information such as person's age or dates related to their birth or death. Additional information. You can use genogram to depict just about anything that you think might be relevant to treatment. Feel free to create additional markers to fit your needs. For example, you use an asterisk to indicate difficulty with anger or a squiggly line above the gender symbol to indicate alcohol addiction. Next slide. Next po. Putting it all together, using the symbols and rules on the previous slides, here's an example of completed genogram along with some commentary. Next. That would be all. Thank you for listening.